Chief Minister Chandrababu Naidu has once again pitched for larger families, arguing that India must act now to protect its future workforce. Now, renewing his call for a 3-children norm, Naidu says that population growth should be viewed as an opportunity and not as a burden, especially at a time when many regions are aging rapidly. The Chief Minister's remarks underlying a growing concern that India's demographic advantage could slip away if the birth rates continue to fall. Now, this is not a stray remark, but part of a sustained policy push by Chandrababu Naidu. Over the past year, Andhra Chief Minister has repeatedly warned that southern states could lose political and economic influence if population trends remain skewed in the favor of North. From flagging risks to parliamentary representation to openly encouraging families to have more children, Naidu has made it clear that 2-child norm and 2-child policy, according to him, no longer fits India's future needs. And today's statement only reinforces what he believes to be a long-term demographic rethink that India needs to do. And what makes this push politically striking is Naidu's own past. 3 decades ago, in 1994, he was among the leaders who backed 2-child policy as a tool for population control. Now calling that approach outdated, Naidu argues that declining fertility, aging population and shrinking workforce pose a bigger threat than overpopulation. With Andhra Pradesh even considering incentives and linking eligibility to family size, the Chief Minister is clearly betting on population growth as an economic strategy, not as a social risk.
As Mohanji Bhagwatji has rightly mentioned always, every couple should have 3 children. Fertility rate. This is very important. I am also saying always, we are crossing now slowly replacement level. Everybody, that is our culture. If all of us will think focusing on population by 2047 or beyond 2047, centuries together, that is India time only. Nobody can dominate on the global scenario. That is going to happen.
All right, there you have it. Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister suggesting that people today should have more kids. His argument is that India needs to act to protect its future workforce. According to Chandrababu Naidu, the current population growth is not enough to keep pace with the aging population. And the Chief Minister says that there is a growing concern that India's demographic advantage could slip away if the birth rates continue to fall. Now, remember, this is not the first time that Chandrababu Naidu has repeated his assertions. In fact, over the past year, the Chief Minister has said it multiple times that southern states could lose their political and economic influence if the population remains skewed in favor of North. He's flagged the risks. He's made parliamentary representations and he's openly encouraged families to have more children. And according to him, the 2-child policy does not fit India's future needs anymore. In fact, remember, Chandrababu Naidu himself in 1994 ordered and backed the 2-child policy as a tool for population control. But now his approach has changed. He is essentially saying that the population is fast declining, the fertility is declining, and shrinking workforce could pose a risk than overpopulation. My colleague Sneha joining with more details. Sneha, this has been a repeated assertion now of Chandrababu Naidu, where he's telling people directly to have more than 2 children.
That's right, Shweta. In fact, Chandrababu Naidu, over the past several times in just 2025, has repeatedly asked people to move beyond 2-child policy. He's made big changes to the local body poll rules as well. Earlier, only people with 2 children, a maximum of 2 children, could contest the local polls. That's been removed. Now that's been opened up for people more than 3 children as well. In fact, there have been many incentives also announced. Remember the controversial statement that if you have a boy, you will get a cow. If you have a girl, you will get 50,000 rupees. It was Chandrababu Naidu's MLA itself who had made this comment in Andhra Pradesh for his constituency. So there have been a lot of push from his government for the 3-child policy, while many have said that this is Chandrababu Naidu upping the ante, keeping the delimitation in mind, where there is going to be a disadvantage for the south of India, as many chief ministers from across South India have claimed this repeatedly. In this particular case, Chandrababu has maintained this isn't about delimitation. This is about national development. This is about national interest, and it should not be seen in line with delimitation, is what he has claimed. Now, what he is saying is that with lesser population for south of India, South of India will be the first, particularly Andhra Pradesh will be the first to lose the dividends of demography, or the population advantage, as it were, if you just stick to a maximum of a 2-child policy. And therefore, it's necessary to move on with incentives for people to have more than 3 children. But this, of course, has been taken on by the opposition and several other political parties, saying that here is Chandrababu Naidu himself doubling down on the need for 3 children. And this is against what has been the policy, and is part of the larger perspective of how southern states have been feeling the heat ahead of the delimitation exercise, which is rather going to impact the way MPs from these states are going to be represented in the Lok Sabha, Shweta.
All right. So Chandrababu Naidu, they're staying away from the delimitation debate as far as advocating for 3 children is concerned. But the fact of the matter remains, a population demographic dividend can also be a demographic burden, Sneha. And in this case, Andhra Pradesh has recorded unemployment rates of about 8% in the past year. He's essentially saying there needs to be more people to join the workforce, while the current existing workforce itself does not have jobs.
That's true, Shweta. That's one way of looking at it, really. And while many would say this is a stark reality in several states across India, particularly in the south as well, and therefore you have so many people from south which has much higher literacy levels and education levels and living standards, per capita income, moving to other states in search of jobs, and the lack of opportunities within those states as well. That's one way to look at it. And the contrast of wanting a more younger population, wanting younger children, more than 2 children as the policy were, and still demanding and still the stark reality of unemployment across the states. That's one part of it. But also, Shweta, it's interesting to see that most of these people who are asking and talking about going beyond the 2 children policy are essentially men. And the burden of this, of having 1 child, 2 children, 3 children, largely in most households, is something that is borne by women.
Very important perspective there. Thank you, Sneha, for all those details. Of course, rightly pointing out that usually the men there advocating for 3 children, while the actual burden of bringing those children into the world, rearing them, raising them, usually falls with women.